By 1978, the raging inflation has left Federal Reserve very little options. The Dow Jones falls 18% by 1977. It's the same year Peter Lynch becomes one of the youngest money managers on Wall Street. While the rest of the market is down sharply, Lynch's fund has generated a 20% profit. To Peter Lynch, stock picking is like an art form or a sport. The way he practiced this art form is by immersing himself in the business that he's going to buy.
My stock picking method, which involved elements of art and science, plus legwork, hasn't changed in 20 years. Professional investors are missing the point. A pile of software isn't worth a damn if you haven't done your basic homework on the companies. They're scrambling to buy services like Bridge, Shark, Bloomberg, First Call, MarketWatch, when they ought to be spending more time at the mall.
In philosophy is called empiricism, which prioritizes learning from direct experiences over anything else. Peter Lynch forms his investment thesis by immersing himself in the business, rather than by just reading the numbers on paper. It's essentially a human-driven approach, meaning that if Lynch likes the product and other people love the product and the management are good people, these serve as a better evidence than just figures on papers. Lynch becomes unstoppable. A year later, while the market has bounced back to 18%, Lynch's Magellan Fund has done even better, creating a 51% return in 1979.
We are Americans. God bless you and thank you.
As Ronald Reagan becomes the president, the age of prosperity has returned. The bull market propels Peter Lynch Magellan to stardom as it consistently makes mind-boggling profits. Although Lynch doesn't always pick the right stocks, he knows if he gets 3 out of 5 stocks right, in the long run, he will do just fine. But even with that assurance, one stock investment still catches him off guard. Founded in 1983, J. Belkner was an instant success. It became a popular specialty food store due to its understanding of the local consumers in Boston.
Bildner's is a specialty food store located across the street from my Boston office. It sells gourmet sandwiches and prepared hot foods. Bildner's is a cross between a convenience store and a 3-star restaurant. I had first-hand information that they had the best bread and the best sandwiches in Boston.
The store was perfect for middle-class white collars who had a little bit of disposable income and who want something better than just microwave sandwiches for lunch. When the company goes public in 1986, Lynch is the first in line to buy stocks at $13 a share. Since he's become addicted to their sandwiches, Lynch is confident that soon the stores will pop up across America and millions of middle-class Americans will enjoy their sandwiches as he does. What Peter Lynch didn't realize was that Belkner was successful because it was local. It hasn't yet proven itself that it could succeed elsewhere. And when Belkner opens a new store in Manhattan, it fails to compete with the infamous New York delis. By the time the company tries to open new locations in Atlanta, it has already run out of cash.
I'm sure the company learned from these mistakes, but there was no second chance once the money ran out. I gradually unloaded my shares at losses ranging from 50 to 95%. The lesson here is if the prototype is in Texas, hold off buying until the company shows it can make money in Illinois. Does the idea work in some other place? That's the question I forgot to ask Bildner's.
After learning his lesson, Lynch continues to hunt for 10 baggers, companies whose products he enjoys, who have the ability to scale, and who somehow also have been neglected by Wall Street. But Lynch gradually finds out that as his fund grows bigger and he becomes more famous, it gets more difficult to find 10 backers. By 1989, the Magellan has become the most popular mutual fund in America, with $17 billion under management. Peter Lynch has been beating the market every year, making him the most celebrated investor on Wall Street. To Ned Johnson, hiring Lynch has been a stroke of genius. And to millions of Americans, Fidelity is Lynch, and Lynch is Fidelity. Lynch is no question an ethical, hardworking, intelligent person. And that was exactly the brand image Ned Johnson wanted people to associate with Fidelity. But then at the peak of Peter Lynch's career, he does the unthinkable. In 1991, after 11 years of exceptional performance, Peter Lynch resigns. For years, he was driven by the desire to provide for his mother and his family. He has pushed himself to work hard like no one else, even at the expense of spending time with his children. Peter Lynch knows what it's like to not have his father around.
Peter Lynch, manager of the nation's largest and most profitable mutual stock fund for 13 years, left his job at Fidelity's Magellan Fund in 1990. Lynch's decision to retire young was influenced by his father's death at 46, when Peter was only 10.
At the age of 48, Lynch decides that no amount of money can buy back time with his family. But there is one more reason why Lynch quit Fidelity. What many people don't know was that Magellan was a closed internal fund for the first 5 years of its history. It had less than $1 billion in 1980, which was considered small even at that time. And when a fund is small, you have a wider range of companies to pick from. And if you look at Magellan's historical performance, the best years were in the early years. By early 1990s, as the size of the fund grows, and as a celebrity, it becomes increasingly difficult to find 10 baggers. Lynch decides that while Magellan is still performing well, it is time to retire and cement his legendary status as the most profitable mutual fund manager in history. But little does he know that even after retirement, a ghost from the past will come back and haunt him. By early 2000, mutual funds and other ETFs have become the most powerful forces in corporate finance. As a massive trillion-dollar investment company, Fidelity is often the biggest shareholder in many major corporations in America. So they literally have enough votes in their hands to change the fate of many US companies. What happens now is that whether if you're activist hedge funds or if you're an executive of a company, you need to be on good terms with guys like Larry Fink and the Johnson's family. In 2008, the SEC charges Fidelity for receiving bribery from various companies amount to millions of dollars, including VIP tickets for Super Bowl, concerts, and even for strip clubs. And Peter Lynch is charged with a $20,000 fine for receiving bribery tickets for Broadway shows and for golf tournaments. But that setback doesn't affect Peter Lynch's reputation, as people trust that Lynch didn't break the law on purpose. In 2022, Peter Lynch is just as popular as ever. They come to find out that Lynch's way of investing is just as relevant today. Even though the success of Magellan Fund has made Lynch a rich man, he has made even more money for the Johnson family. Unlike other financial institutions, Fidelity is still a private company with almost $8 trillion of assets under management. and it is still tightly controlled by the Johnson family, who now is arguably one of the most powerful families in America. Thanks again to Daily Upside for sponsoring this video. Check the link in the description.